Hi everyone, I'm Liam. Today I want to talk about why your $100 feels like $50 today. Alright, today we are going to talk about something that's constantly, quietly messing with the money in your pocket. We're talking about inflation. Let's get into it. So, have you ever felt this? You're at the grocery store, you're filling up your car, and it just feels like your money doesn't go as far. Maybe your paycheck even went up a bit, but you feel like you're treading water or even falling behind. What is going on? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve today. Okay, let's jump in a little time machine. Picture this. It's 2014. You walk into a grocery store with a $100 bill and you fill that cart to the brim. Now snap back to today. That exact same $100? It might only get you half a cart. Your money, it's just gotten weaker. And that, right there, is inflation in action. So what is really going on? You know, most of us think, oh, milk is just getting more expensive. But that's not the whole story. The root of it is actually a little different. It's not that the milk is suddenly more valuable, it's that the dollar you're using to buy it is worth less. This is actually a fantastic way to think about it. Imagine you're trying to measure a room, but your measuring tape shrinks just a little bit every single year. Suddenly, that 12-foot wall needs more inches to cover the same distance. That's exactly what's happening with our money. The dollar is that shrinking inch. You just need more and more of them to buy the exact same stuff. To make this super simple, let's use the pizza analogy. Okay, imagine the entire economy, all the goods, all the services, is just 10 slices of pizza. And all the money floating around, that's 10 tickets. So one ticket, one slice. Easy, right? But then, what happens if the government or the central bank just prints 10 more tickets? Suddenly you've got 20 tickets all scrambling for the same 10 slices of pizza. Well, now each ticket is only worth half a slice. That is inflation in a nutshell. Way too much money chasing way too few goods. And this all leads us to a really important term, purchasing power. It's just a fancy way of saying, what can your money actually buy? When inflation goes up, the purchasing power of your dollar goes down. The number on the bill, a 1, a 5, a 20, it stays the same, but its actual power out in the real world, it's shrinking. Okay, so let's bring this home. How does this actually affect you and your money? Because this isn't just some boring economic theory. It has very real consequences, especially for your savings. Just look at this chart. Let's say 10 years ago, you took $1,000 and stuffed it under your mattress for safekeeping. You pull it out today. Hey, it's still $1,000, right? But if we factor in an average inflation of, say, 3% a year, that $1,000 can only buy what about $740 could have bought back then. More than a quarter of its value has just, poof, vanished. And you didn't even spend a penny. And that is why they call it the silent thief. It's so sneaky. Nobody breaks into your house to steal your money. The value just evaporates into thin air. And because it happens so slowly, day by day, most of us don't even notice until we look back over a few years and think, wait, where did all the value go? Alright, so if inflation is this sneaky thief, why don't we just get rid of it? Why don't governments aim for zero inflation? Well, here's where things get really interesting. Most central banks, the people in charge of the money supply, they actually want a little bit of inflation every single year. And the magic number they're usually aiming for is right around here, 2%. They are actively trying to make your money worth 2% less every single year. I know, it sounds absolutely crazy, right? Yeah, I can hear you now. Hold on a second. You just spent all this time telling me inflation is a thief that robs my savings, and now you're saying the people in charge are doing it on purpose? It's a totally fair question, and believe it or not, there's a reason for it. It's because the opposite of inflation, something called deflation, where prices are constantly falling, is considered an economic nightmare. I mean, think about it. If you knew for a fact that a new car or a new TV would be cheaper next month, would you buy it today? Of course not. You'd wait. And if everyone waits, spending grinds to a halt, companies go out of business, and people lose their jobs. A little bit of inflation is like the grease that keeps the economic engine running, because it encourages us to spend or invest our money instead of just hoarding it. But here's the real kicker for most of us. The whole system really only works if our wages are going up faster than inflation. And the big problem is, they often don't. So if inflation is running at 5%, but you only get a 2% raise at work, you didn't really get a raise. You actually got a 3% pay cut in terms of your purchasing power. You're working harder, but you're effectively falling behind. And then, of course, you have the absolute worst-case scenario. This is when inflation just spirals completely out of control. We've seen it happen in history. Think Germany after World War I, or Zimbabwe more recently. This is hyperinflation. It's when money loses its value so fast that you literally need a wheelbarrow full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. This is the economic monster that central banks are trying to keep in its cage. Okay, so if holding cash is like sitting on a melting ice cube, what do you do about it? How do you protect yourself? The answer, in concept, is actually pretty simple. You don't hold cash. You hold assets. This is something that financially savvy people have understood for a long time. They don't let huge piles of cash just sit there losing value. They turn that cash into things that tend to hold their value or even grow over time. We're talking about things like real estate, houses, stocks, which is basically owning a small piece of a company, or even commodities like gold. And the logic for why this works is actually really straightforward. Let's go back to our milk example. When the price of milk goes up because of inflation, what happens to the company that sells the milk? Well, it's making more money. Its sales go up, its profits go up, and that means the value of its stock tends to go up too. So by owning a piece of that company, you're now on the right side of that price increase. Your asset's value is rising right along with inflation, and that protects your purchasing power. So, let's wrap this up with a question for you to think about. Now that you understand how this works, is your cash just sitting there slowly melting away like an ice cube? Or is it frozen into assets that are built to last? Something to think about. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one. Take care.